As Apple dives more into AI, their partnership with Nvidia is only growing stronger.
Hello and welcome to the All Future Podcast. Guys, come on a journey with us because we're going to the Omniverse today. The Omniverse, which I guess Nvidia's insanely bad name for.
I was going to say, wait, you're getting excited about a name you hate.
I like the concept. I think the name is ridiculous. It's taking two things that mean everything and putting it together. This is crazy. All right, but in any case, guys, glad you're here. If you've somehow still stuck around through my disappointment of the Omniverse, think about subscribing. Or if you are someone who also thinks Omniverse is a terrible name, come on board. You found your people. You found your people here. So today we're talking about all these just more breakthroughs from NVIDIA in the AI space. NVIDIA is certainly one of the hottest companies since the kind of explosion of AI, both in terms of what they're producing and how much money they're making and everything else across the board. So they've recently had these new demos and stuff. Ryan, what's going on, man?
Well, the first demo we've seen is NVIDIA showing off teleoperation simulation. So the idea of this is teleoperation of a robot where you're doing something like using a VR headset and maybe some controllers, and you're controlling a robot remotely. And all the demos we're seeing, it's right next to the robot where you're doing it. But the idea in the future is essentially people could be working anywhere, controlling robots in factories, or I think we've shown it in there was this crazy one in Japan doing some tree work, crazy robot, and it allows a human to still be in control but not have to be in that situation, whether it be just far away or dangerous or whatnot. But NVIDIA is taking this to the next level where they're showing off this teleoperation simulation, but it's simulation of that happening. So the guy's wearing an Apple Vision headset, which seems to be pretty present, almost to the point where I'm like, is Apple ensuring that they're really showing off the Apple Vision and all of these
they probably
NVIDIA
gave him
demos?
a dedicated engineer and stuff. Apple's probably way in behind the scenes on this.
Because they're pretty in there with the Apple Vision, but they're showing off how the Apple Vision is training, or the person is training this robot, but then it's in all of these other virtual environments that it's learning how to do this. So the example in this video is it's putting a cup on a shelf, and then they're just swapping out all the different environments that it could be in, all the different types of shelves, all different factors like that. And then it's training that in the Omniverse, which is this location where stuff can be trained, and then it can be applied to the real world. And there's this whole framework and all these steps that they lay out for this process, but it's definitely very interesting to see because I haven't thought about it on that level. I've thought about the Omniverse a lot as it helps you walk around a virtual factory to see how stuff is laid out before you actually build it. But this is you're training a robot in an Omniverse to then apply to the real world.
Yeah, cool. And we've talked before about one of the benefits of humanoid robots is they can be trained by humans to do human-type tasks. One of the other benefits is it'd be easy to control by a human. Because, a spider robot with 8 arms, it'd be hard in the simulation to figure out what's going on. But if a humanoid robot controlled directly by a human, it's an instant understanding. It's an intuitive understanding of how to make it work. This stuff is cool. I think we've talked about this before. It's kind of telepresence robots. Massive applications across the board, I think, for good things. Probably some applications for bad things too. Work from home factory workers, for example. But obviously some places, like you're saying, things that are too dangerous for a human to go, and places where you kind of maybe don't want to leave it up to the AI inside the robot. I think of maybe, search and rescue, fire, stuff like that. Things where it's we need to make really good split-second human decisions here, but it's dangerous for a human to be there. Let's put a robot in instead. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It does seem very interesting to me because in a lot of these training videos that we see, they're wearing at least some kind of gloves that are tracking. I believe in this one, they're just using the Apple Vision and then just moving their hands. So they're picking up a cup with their hand virtually within, I guess, air. And then the robot is doing it, I believe, in the Omniverse. And that kind of shines or shows off Apple's hand tracking abilities, I would guess.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's one of the benefits of the Vision Pro, right? Is that you can do this stuff without a glove or some kind of hand controller, or, like the Quest or something would have. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah, the development side of that is pretty interesting. I think you're right. They probably do have an engineer dedicated just at NVIDIA.
Apple's got a guy there like helping out. Yeah, for sure.
Because they're taking that info on the back end of the vision and able to actually apply it to a robot. So yeah, this kind of leads to two big winners there. One is NVIDIA for being ahead on this technology and being able to develop all of this. And then this is good for Apple because it's one of the, if not the premier AI company out there using the Apple Vision. So it just shows all of these use cases to the general public, but also to all these companies that they could implement into the future. And it just shows where this very expensive device that Apple has figured out consumers don't exactly want to pay $3,500 for. It shows where that could be geared instead. So yeah, I'm excited to see that, see more uses for the Apple Vision just on like kind of the company side of things. And I think we're going to see it a lot for training, especially if what we're seeing is actually true, that it's just using the Apple Vision's hand tracking and it's able to train without much extra equipment. That might be a lot of what we see the Apple Vision being applied to in the future before they make a cheaper version for consumers.
Yeah, very cool. So robot controlling, pretty cool. But, if you're in the Omniverse, you want to create worlds within worlds. That's what you want. Mm-hmm. They have demonstrated this new image generation system, which I thought was kind of cool how they're implementing this. So kind of in the demo, it's whatever, whimsical young girl, and she's imagining a world, and you see it get built. But what's happening is, instead of just using pure generative AI to generate the images, it's pulling 3D models from stock 3D model libraries based on what the person's saying. So it's using an LLM to kind of translate what that person's saying into data, insert 3D models into this space, and then use generative image fill to kind of make it all work together and light the environment and change how it's looking. So it's kind of a hybrid of traditional 3D, CGI, VR, and AI generated stuff, which I think is a really cool way to do it. Mm-hmm. And also allows you to get a cool 3D world instead of a faked 3D world through 2D image generation. Like it's actually like generating the whole thing, which obviously has immense value for a lot of things over just 2D images. Mm-hmm. If you actually want to walk around the Omniverse, this is what you're going to need. I thought this demo was pretty neat. Like, I thought this was cool. You can correct me if you saw something different, but it didn't seem to me that this was a product that we're going to be able to be playing around with anytime soon.
You don't think so?
It seemed like, I guess they didn't announce it, I guess. Yeah. As far as I know from this kind of thing, it was just kind of a tech demo of what they were doing. Yeah, I do think we're going to have this at some point. It's just we don't really know when it's going to come out. But look, man, if you want to sell a ton of NVIDIA GPUs, build a computer rig that's going to AI generate plus real generate a bunch of CGI 3D stuff on the fly. Yeah, you're going to need some processing for that.
Yeah, it seems quite impressive how they're doing it because, you're building a 3D environment, and then once you, I guess, pick your kind of angle or whatever, however it's translating that through the LLM, then it's going to actually map on the textures and the lighting and everything. And I think that in theory probably takes a lot more processing up front, but then for iterations and changing, saying like, let's shift this a little to the right, it might be less intensive on that front because it's already done all this work. And then you have this framework that you're working with, like normal 3D modeling and how it works, instead of like a fully baked image. And then you're like, oh, shift it. And then it has to do an entire ground up process again.
Yeah. I like this a lot. I like this as a tool for creativity and artists and stuff like that. Kind of the fear is generative AI is going to get rid of traditional CG artists or special effects guys or whatever you want. But this is it's blending both and it's bringing the best of both worlds, right? It's giving you the control and fidelity and ability to make kind of micro adjustments that you get from traditional CGI, but with the immense speed and power and effectiveness of generative AI on top of it, right? Like a generative AI can make a scene look finished and good much faster than a traditional way to do it. And even if you have all your kind of, lighting rigs built and surfaces figured out, all the kind of stuff you have to do to make a good computer generated image, that stuff takes a while. It's work intensive. It's computer intensive. And look, I'm just going to say it. Generative AI looks better. Generative AI looks better. It's better at making light look more realistic. And I think how it's doing that, I've got this weird theory on this, is that it's not as accurate and that makes it better. It kind of fudges it, right? Like, because it doesn't, generative AI, if it's making a shadow, right? Traditionally in the CG world, you would, say, hey, I've got a spherical object here. I have a light source here that is this big and this bright. I have a surface behind it, or shadow catcher behind it is what you kind of call it in the parlance of it. And it kind of calculates, all right, if the light's here, here's something, this is what that shadow is going to look like, right? But there's obviously so much more stuff that affects that, right? So that's when you start having to do good CGI. You have to start thinking of, what's the weather I'm simulating, right? What's the surface that shadow is hitting, right? What's the surface of the light that's getting hit, the object that's getting hit by the light, right? There's all these things, nuances you have to put in there, right? Whereas on the generative AI side, if it's doing that, it has no idea about any of that, right?
Yeah.
It just has looked at millions of pictures of shadows and goes, oh, a shadow in a foggy environment kind of looks like this. And, and it's guessing, I say, like it's using its autocomplete diffusion model, to kind of work backwards to make it look right. And it ends up looking better than 90% of CG stuff. And obviously there's great CG stuff out there. I'm not saying that, right? Like incredibly photorealistic, beautiful stuff, amazing stuff people make, right? But on average, this makes it quicker, better, cheaper. So you take all that stuff, but then combine it with the models and stuff that humans are making so you get that exact thing that you want. This seems cool.
Definitely. I don't have much more on that. It's a very good explanation of what this is and what it could mean for the future. But Nvidia is just always at the forefront, it feels like, of everything. At least they're great at demoing things.
Nvidia is always at the forefront of demos so they can sell more cards. They want to sell chips and graphic cards. That's what they're doing, right?
I'm curious to see how much of this we get the product from Nvidia or we get it from a company that is buying Nvidia chips, and Nvidia's like, cool, you can actually do it, you can actually implement it, but we just showed you that you could, and now you buy our computers. That seems to be
almost all the stuff we've seen from Nvidia recently, like everything from the health thing. Remember that, like the health kind of stuff, and all these things. I think seem like demos of what you can do with Nvidia tech. Now you guys go make it happen, right? And we'll sell you the hardware for it.
Yeah, maybe eventually we'll see a shift there once hardware reaches some sort of peak, but it seems like we're a ways off from AI hardware reaching any sort of peak. There's just kind of infinite demand for it right now.
And it's just, and Nvidia is just not set up to sell that sort of product yet. I'm not saying they won't be in the future, right? But like right now they're not really geared toward that. Even if you look at their kind of like software, forays into AI stuff with Chat RTX, for example. Yeah. That's not real. That's like a bonus thing you can have if you have an Nvidia card almost, right? It's not like a product people are buying or using or like a standalone kind of software thing that people are seeking out, you know? Not to say Nvidia couldn't build that, right? But it's just, that's not where they're at right now. But with stuff like this, and if you look at, they're partnered with some pretty big companies on all this stuff. So if, maybe you take, like, I believe they're using all their 3D models are coming from Shutterstock. So I could see, something like that, like a company like Shutterstock developing some kind of hybrid generative AI CG model thing that you had to pay a subscription for every month,
Yeah, exactly. And then on the back end, it's all running on Nvidia hardware.
And exactly. Yeah, and Nvidia's
everybody's
making their money.
happy. Yeah.
The rich get richer.
The next thing from Nvidia, though, is something we've kind of seen before, but digital humans as customer service representatives. So they kind of detail customer service is essential for all businesses, and oftentimes that's a pain point for a lot of customers with a business because customer service isn't great or it's outsourced. And this could essentially have perfect access to all instruction manuals and things that could help you out, and it would be quicker and it'd be faster. But then they're, of course, demoing like an AI looking human, which I don't know. For me at this point, I'm like, why are we demoing that when it's still in that uncanny valley? I like the idea of this kind of what the information would be, but I don't know how many people are feeling comfortable getting it delivered in that form right now. What do you think?
When have you ever been on customer service and been like, you know what this needs? I need to see that guy talking to me, right? Like, that doesn't make it like that kind of human level of connection, I was almost think is bad for customer service in some ways, right? Because you really want an effective answer to your question. Adding like a fake human in it that's going to have like fake inflections and emotions and stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? That being said, I mean, I probably almost every kind of online chat thing you do right now with customer service is some kind of bot. Like, that was already kind of true before the explosion of LLMs. Now that's just becoming more and more true. So I think that seems to be the way to do it, right? I open up a chat window and I go, here's my problem, AI. And it goes, here's your fix, customer. Why are we adding in all this stuff that makes it weirder?
Yeah, I don't know who that's for, but maybe they'll convince us eventually, and I'll be like, you know what? I'd rather, instead of typing, I'd rather be talking to what feels like a person.
I guess I would rather talk. But I don't need to see him. Don't need to see him.
Yeah, but that is one thing that they've demoed. We'll see if that is the future.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another big AI company at this point, Meta, with Mark Zuckerberg talking about kind of something similar to this, but instead of customer service agents, it's your own personal AI agents. And he has been recently laying out this whole kind of vision of us having AI agents that can take care of what we need to do, and it's kind of trained in our preferences and what we like. And his idea is that we get to a point where there are more AI agents than there are humans in the world. And what are your thoughts here?
That's happening. For sure. And this kind of idea of a hyper-specific AI model that is maybe based on you for your interactions, right? And probably I think we're going to have multiple AI agents, right? Like I'm going to have like my personal assistant AI agent. I'm going to have my AI agent that, I don't know, maybe is the person who answers emails, or the person, right? The AI guy that answers emails, or, like basically for every facet of your life, you can have this different kind of AI agent that's designed to act on your behalf with that world, whatever that world is. I think that's definitely happening. If they're good, this is good, right?
Yeah.
like this concept is only as good as our ability to train AIs to act and respond as close to us as they possibly can. But this, I mean, we've talked about this with a bunch of different, we talked about this with the dating app. I think the CEO of Bumble had talked about it, this idea of like, have your AI agent date other AI agents, and you can go on like 1,000 bad dates in an afternoon, and then figure out the person you want to be with. That sounds kind of cool. I say kind of cool. It sounds like interesting, I guess. I don't know if it's good.
Terrifying and interesting, but maybe a good concept.
Yeah. But I think this is happening. People are gonna want this kind of stuff, right? Like why should I think about things I don't want to have to deal with, man? I just this past week I set up a new business entity, a new corporation, right? Man, that sucks. It sucks. It sucks. It's
the worst.
Yes, because here are my options. I call my accountant, legal, business manager people, and they're like, "No problem, man. We can do that for you. $3,500." I'm like, "Oh, why?" Right? Yeah, and they're like, plus fees, right? Yeah. And then the other option is you go on the website, the government website, and do it all yourself, which is what I ended up doing. And I was just like, what does all this even mean? Like, I don't even, like, it's, you got to like research everything, figure out what's going on. So, whatever. I spent the afternoon doing it to save myself $3,000. But I was like, if I had an AI agent who's my finance business AI agent, right? And he knows the kind of stuff I want, but it's also well-trained in that world. And I could tell him, hey, I want to set up another corporation. Can you handle that for me? And he's like, no problem. And goes and does it. Like, yeah, that's the dream. That's what I want. Unfortunately, I think another possibility on this is AI agents talking to AI agents and us just devolving into a weird dystopian place where no human interacts with another human and it's all AIs interacting with AIs.
Yeah, I was just going to say, is your AI agent going to be talking to your AI customer service rep?
Yeah.
And it's just it's just on that level. I also think about the part about this needing to be perfect. Like, I think we've probably all sent a text message or an email that we've then had to retract or backtrack from and awkwardly be like, hey, sorry, I was upset, or sorry, whatever. And so are we going to have to backtrack like, hey, actually, I do want to do that. My AI agent said no, but I do want to do that. Yeah. Like, that seems like that's going to happen. It's going to you're going to have to retract certain things it does. And
Yeah.
like, I guess then it learns that, but you're dealing with real people here. It's very weird.
That's the way, right? When it crosses over to the like the real person, right? So it's almost like, and we're going to need to like label it. Like, when you get a text from my AI agent, it's going to be like text from Matt, parentheses, AI agent,
Yeah.
so people know that what didn't get past to the human, right? Yeah, that's the kind of stuff we're going to have to do. But I think that's kind of where it's headed, because I think people are going to like the convenience of this sort of stuff, right? So like so companies are going to develop it, people are going to use it.
Yeah. And then it's one of those kind of, I guess you could put a premium on actual human interaction in the future. So you maybe not for the individual, like we're talking at this level, but I guess a premium to talk to a human customer service representative. I don't know. You can pay an extra subscription fee to be like, I actually get to talk to humans.
And what's funny is the human's probably going to be worse.
That's true.
Probably the AI agent's probably going to be better at customer service.
At a certain point, it probably will be. Yeah. So what does that mean for the future? I don't know. All this stuff is it's so crazy to think about.
Yeah. The AI they're gonna be better than us at most things, right? So like, how do we process that? And then what does that make? What's our place in the world when all the things that we do every day can be replaced with an AI? What do we do with ourselves?
So, and then that opens a whole philosophical can of worms.
Just stare into the void, I guess. I
think and for a lot of people, I think it actually forces you to address a question that people don't want to address, of just like, what is this all for? And what's the meaning of life and all this stuff?
What are we doing any of this for? Yeah, absolutely. Right. Like that's why, I mean, this is a weird theory, right? But like depression in like intelligent people or wealthy people is higher. Is because they have more free time to think about stuff a lot, right? Like it's like, when your first instinct every day is not like, oh, I gotta get to work at the coal mine to feed my family. When you wake up and you're like, I kind of do whatever I want right now.
Yeah.
Right? Like all of a sudden you're like, oh man, this is sad because I actually don't want to do anything. And
and why am I? What is this for?
What is the point of any of this? I'm just a meat skeleton floating through the cosmos here. Like, what am I doing, right?
Yeah, and I feel like AI kind of brings that to the forefront for more people, because we're going to have all these AI agents that are handling our things, and it's like, well, I don't actually need to do anything. So what am I here for if I don't have to do anything?
Only we told you this. Answer it. Yeah.
We told you this podcast sometimes. Is these topics and just general topics.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, that's all the latest Nvidia stuff and how Apple's partnership with them is kind of growing. I think we're primarily seeing it with the Apple Vision, but we're probably going to see it in other ways as well. And AI agents may be coming for our future jobs.